Throughout human history, warfare has been a battleground where the most powerful and unexpected weapons have played the decisive role. Envision the ancient battlefields of Sri Lanka, where swords were made into metal whips of instant death, designed for the few to fight the many. Picture the legendary Korean Wars where the Hwacha, a fearsome multiple rocket launcher, stood ready to unleash unimaginable volleys of arrows, raining devastation over enemy troops with precision and terror. Imagine the sparkling waters of Syracuse, where the Claw of Archimedes, a massive grappling device, was designed to lift enemy ships out of the ocean and smash them against rocks, or capsize them entirely. But what drives the innovation of such peculiar weapons, and how have they reshaped the outcomes of countless confrontations and even the course of history itself? From the Carthage invasion of Rome, where war elephants stampeded and destroyed, to the bizarre but deadly Aztec Macuahuitl, studded with razor-sharp obsidian, which was capable of delivering wounds so severe that they were likened to the bites of a beast, weapons have existed beyond imagination. Weapons that have redefined the art of war through the element of surprise, and that have toppled empires. This is perfectly represented in the immortal words of Hannibal Barca, leading the Carthaginians against the Romans. We will either find a way or make one. Join us as we journey through time and across continents, uncovering the bizarre and cunning, the powerful and the underestimated, the lethal weapons deployed to secure victory against overwhelming odds. Welcome to the Chronicles of the Raven. Before investigating 13th century missile launchers, blades that attach to arms, and clubs that are stronger than swords, we travel to the heart of Central Africa, where a lethal marvel of weaponry emerged. The capinga, a triple throwing knife of unparalleled design and balance, was the deadly companion of the fierce Azande warriors. As something that looks like it was as aerodynamic as a hippopotamus, this multi-bladed wonder, forged from the fires of domination, was a weapon designed to be used in semi-ranged combat, to lethal effect. Not only a weapon of the Azande warriors, but also used in variations throughout all of Africa, the capinga's unique form was a masterclass in aerodynamic efficiency. Measuring up to 56 centimeters in length, this throwing knife featured 3 to 5 razor-sharp blades, each extending from a central circular base. The blades, painstakingly crafted from iron, were arranged in a curved, almost organic pattern, reminiscent of a pinwheel or a bird's outstretched wings. This ingenious design ensured that no matter how the capinga was thrown, at least one blade would strike the target with devastating precision and penetration, while typically being thrown from about 9 to 10 meters. These fearsome warriors, hailing from the lush rainforests and savannas of what is now the Democratic Republic of Congo, South Sudan, and the Central African Republic, relied on the capinga's lethal efficiency to defend their territories and expand their influence. The Azande's enemies quickly learned to fear the whistle of the capinga as it sliced through the air. The capinga's range and accuracy were unmatched, allowing the Azande to strike their foes from a distance and sow chaos in their ranks. The wounds inflicted by the capinga were often fatal, as the razor-sharp blades tore through flesh and bone with sickening ease. One of the most remarkable aspects of the capinga was its versatility. Not only could it be thrown with deadly accuracy, but it could also be used in close-quarters combat. The circular base of the capinga served as a grip, allowing the wielder to use the blades as a slashing or stabbing weapon. Imagine being present at the peak of this weapon's power in Central Africa, where the Azande warriors patrolled their territorial borders. A sudden intrusion by a rival tribe set the stage for a skirmish that would demonstrate the lethal efficiency of the capinga. As dawn broke over the underbrush, the Azande warriors, expertly concealed behind foliage and armed with their oblong shields, prepared for the encroaching threat. These large shields not only provided protection but also served as carriers for their weaponry, featuring a central iron disc from which traditionally 4 capinga were suspended. The enemy, unaware of the precise positioning of the Azande, advanced cautiously into their range. With a series of coordinated calls, signals to allies and fair play warnings to their foes, the Azande closed within 10 meters of the enemy. This distance was meticulously calculated for optimal use of their weapons. First, they hurled 2 to 4 spears to disrupt the enemy's formation, creating gaps and sowing confusion. Following this, with practiced precision, they deployed their capinga. These warriors had each capinga uniquely tailored for maximum impact. equipped with three angular blades, the largest meant to slice through obstacles, while the smaller ones inflicted deep punctures. Even a hit from the blunt handle could cause considerable blunt force trauma. The kapinga were thrown in two specific ways, depending on the target. Overarm in a near-vertical curving arc, targeting head height, or underarm in a nearly horizontal trajectory, aimed at knee height. The battle, though brief, underscored the tactical advantage provided by the kapinga, cementing its status not only as a weapon of war, but also as a symbol of Azande martial power. The Azande's mastery of this unique weapon allowed them to maintain their independence and resist the encroachment of neighboring tribes and colonial powers, until the Belgian terror, known as Leopold II, took over. The pinga's ancient design was so effective that it remained in use well into the 20th century during their resistance, a testament to its enduring practicality and the skill of its creators. As we journey further into the realm of ancient weapons, we find ourselves in the exotic lands of India and Sri Lanka, where warriors wielded weapons that were as deadly as they were mesmerizing. Three such weapons stand out among the rest, each more bizarre than the last. The most incredible of these lethal weapons is the urumi, also known as the chutuval. The urumi hail from the culturally rich southern regions of India. At first glance, this weapon might be mistaken for a whip due to its long, flexible blade. However, the urumi is no ordinary whip. It is a lethal sword that has more to it than its thin nature would suggest. It is a remarkable blend of artistic craftsmanship and lethal functionality, and is evidence of the ingenuity of ancient Indian weapons myths. The urumi consists of a whip-like blade made from high-quality steel, which is meticulously forged by compressing multiple thin strips of metal. This unique process results in a flexible yet durable blade that can extend up to 1.5 meters in length and about 2.5 centimeters in width, enabling it to function as both a sword and a whip. Attached to the blade is a sturdy handle, typically about 9 centimeters long, often made from brass or iron, and fitted with a curving crossguard and knuckle guard to protect the wielder's hand. The handle is designed to allow for fluid movement and rotation, enhancing the weapon's agility and the wielder's control over its sweeping motions. In some variations, particularly in Sri Lanka, the urumi could feature up to 32 blades connected to a single hilt, dramatically increasing its potential for damage and its visual intimidation factor. This sophisticated design not only showcases the blade's deadly elegance, but also highlights the cultural significance of the urumi in the martial traditions of its homeland in the form of Kalaripayattu. These warriors, highly skilled and disciplined, underwent rigorous training to master this dangerous weapon, learning to wield it with both deadly precision and graceful fluidity. In the hands of a Kalaripayattu master, the urumi transformed into a whirling blade, creating a protective bubble around the wielder that made it nearly impossible for opponents to approach, almost like a piercing defensive shield. Imagine a battle during the Sangam period, around the 2nd century BC, where the urumi first made its mark. Picture a conflict on the lush plains of southern India, where a small band of Tamil warriors faced a larger invading force. Armed with the urumi, these warriors utilized the weapon's reach and flexibility to create chaos among the ranks of the overconfident invaders. The warriors, moving with the precision and rhythm of a dance, would whip their swords in broad, sweeping motions, their blades slicing through the air and flesh alike. The battle would showcase the urumi's capabilities not just as a tool of war, but as a symbol of martial skill and cultural identity. As the enemy attempt to get close with regular swords, the urumi would cut down enemies with lethal precision, a perfect weapon for one man to equal many. But the urumi was not the only weapon in the Indian arsenal that struck fear into the hearts of their enemies. The Indian katar, also known as the Bundi dagger, was a weapon that was as deadly as it was beautiful. The katar, also referred to historically as the Bundi dagger, is an exemplary weapon that combines lethal functionality with aesthetic grace. Originating in South India, this push dagger is characterized by its unique, all-steel, H-shaped horizontal hand grip, allowing the blade to sit above the user's knuckles, distinctively designed for close combat. The blade itself, typically triangular and ranging from 30 to 90 centimeters in length, was engineered to pierce through armor effectively. Notably, its design evolved to include variations with straight, wavy, or even forked blades, often reinforced at the tip to enhance its armor-piercing capability. Renowned among the Rajput warriors of northern India, the katar was not just a weapon of war, but also a symbol of social status and valor. These warriors, celebrated for their courage and skill, would carry multiple katars into battle, employing them to execute rapid, decisive strikes, the design allowing for powerful, punch-like thrusts that could penetrate armor, making it a feared weapon in close-quarters combat. Imagine bearing witness to the Battle of Haldighati in 1576. Of those to master the guerrilla warfare suited to the katar, Maharana Pratap, revered for his defiance against the expansive reach of the Mughal Empire, was an iconic figure in the history of Mewar. The katar played a significant role in this battle. Pratap's strategy involved close-quarter combat, a fighting style that maximized the katar's strengths. With its short, wide, and triangular blade, the katar was ideal for penetrating the chainmail armor typically worn by Mughal soldiers. This enabled Pratap and his Rajput warriors to inflict devastating injuries on their adversaries, even in the thick of elephant-mounted combat, where space and movement were severely restricted. But perhaps the most unusual weapon in the Indian arsenal was the Madhu, a weapon that was as bizarre as it was effective. It uniquely blends the defensive attributes of a shield with the aggressive capabilities of horns, serving both offensive and defensive purposes in the peak of ancient melee combat. This sophisticated weapon integrates two sharply ridged and spiraled horns of the black buck antelope, positioned opposite each other and affixed at their bases to crossbars, reaching a length up to 90 centimeters. These bars not only serve as handles, but also connect to a strong shield, augmenting the Madhu's defensive efficacy. In the heat of battle, the Madhu's design allows a warrior to parry an attack from one adversary while simultaneously striking another, ensuring readiness and defense even if a primary weapon like a sword is lost. Historically favored by Indian soldiers over standard shields, the Madhu's additional shield component, often crafted from leather or sometimes metal, provides a strategic advantage. Over time, some variations of the Madhu saw enhancements, such as metal tips added to the horns, making them even more lethal. Its effectiveness drew the attention of Arab and Mongol invaders, who adapted it into their own military arsenals, demonstrating the Madhu's significant impact and adaptability in historical warfare contexts. The Urumi, the Indian katar, and the Madhu, three weapons that were as unique as they were deadly. These weapons were not just tools of war, but also works of art, crafted with a level of skill and dedication that is rarely seen in the modern world. They were wielded by warriors who were able to not only dominate their local histories, but resist and battle the throes of colonization for centuries with weapons that lasted millennia. In the smoke-filled chaos of 13th century battlefields, a weapon emerged from the ingenious minds of Chinese military engineers that would forever change the face of warfare. Imagine as Europe was in the peak of using trebuchets, China was already experimenting with gunpowder. As this experimentation matured, China's new invention, which became known as the nest of bees, or the Huo Long Chu Shui, was the first ever rocket battery, using first ever designs for rocket launcher technology. This ingenious weapon system consisted of hexagonal tubes, cleverly designed to broaden at the top to enhance the dispersal of projectiles, and earned its name due to this physical appearance and the nature of their sound upon launching. Capable of launching 32 rocket arrows in a single volley, it could cover distances up to 550 meters, comparable to the length of 5 football fields. Each arrow, traveling at speeds up to 365 kilometers per hour, could be tipped with either poison or flammable substances like pitch or resin, dramatically increasing the lethality of each salvo. As you might understand, it was not the most precise due to the early stage of gunpowder technology and the sub-optimal aerodynamic designs. The nest of bees compensated with sheer volume and the psychological impact it delivered, creating a fearsome spectacle of noise and destructive power. Innovatively designed with shoulder straps for enhanced mobility, warriors could wear it like a backpack into battle, along with larger versions on movable carts such as the Hwacha. This multifunctional weapon could devastate enemy ranks with its deadly arrows, capable of penetrating flesh right down to the bone, and was a pivotal component of the Ming dynasty's military might. Picture yourself in the Battle of Sarhu in 1619, where the Ming dynasty forces faced off against the invading Manchu army. The Ming army, armed with the nest of bees, was able to inflict heavy casualties on the Manchu charging cavalry, who were caught off guard by the weapon's devastating firepower. The battle was a turning point in the war, as the Ming forces were able to push back the Manchu invasion and secure their borders. But the nest of bees was not just a weapon of the Ming dynasty. Its design would go on to influence the development of rocket artillery in Korean in the 16th century in the form of the Hwacha, and then spread into Europe and beyond, with military engineers and scientists studying the weapon and adapting its principles to create new and even more devastating weapons. The mystery of ancient weapons deepens as we turn our gaze to the next chapter in this dark saga of innovation and destruction. From the mists of antiquity, among the chaos of war, two unlikely contenders emerged as weapons of death: elephants and pigs. These animals, once revered for their strength and intelligence, became unwitting pawns in the grand chess game of ancient warfare. War elephants, formerly gentle giants, were transformed into living tanks on the battlefield. From the mighty empires of India to the sun-scorched plains of North Africa, these majestic beasts were harnessed for their raw power, towering stature, and armored hides. War elephants became the ultimate shock troops, capable of trampling infantry and crushing fortifications with ease. The use of war elephants reached its peak during the campaigns of the great conquerors, such as Alexander the Great and Hannibal Barca. These military geniuses recognized the potential of these behemoths and incorporated them into their battle strategies. Hannibal's audacious crossing of the Alps with a contingent of war elephants remains one of the most iconic feats in military history and led to the Second Punic Wars, whereby Hannibal was present in Italy for 15 years before his defeat in Carthage. But war elephants were not invincible. As armies began to develop countermeasures, such as specialized anti-elephant units and the use of larger caltrops, the effectiveness of these titanic beasts waned. The Battle of Zama in 202 BCE, which pitted Hannibal's Carthaginians against Scipio Africanus's Roman legions, saw the tables turned on the once mighty war elephants. Scipio's tactics of creating wide lanes within his formations allowed the Roman infantry to funnel the elephants harmlessly through their ranks, neutralizing their devastating charge and turning the tide of the battle in Rome's favor. However, smart strategy was not the only counter to war elephants. How about the humble pig? Yes, you heard that right. Pigs, those unassuming denizens of the farmyard, were transformed into living incendiary devices by the cruel minds of ancient military engineers. The use of war pigs dates back to the Hellenistic period, with one of the most notable examples being the Siege of Megara in 266 BCE. The Megarians, faced with the daunting prospect of being overrun by the besieging Macedonian forces and their war elephants, devised a truly unconventional countermeasure. They set alight a herd of pigs covered in pitch and resin and drove them towards the enemy's elephants. The squealing, flaming pigs caused the elephants to panic and bolt, throwing the Macedonian ranks into disarray and allowing the Megarians to mount a successful counterattack. This tactic, while seemingly absurd, was a stroke of military genius. It exploited the natural fear that elephants have of pigs, particularly their high-pitched squeals, and turned it into a weapon of psychological warfare on the elephants, which in turn would physically destroy their own forces. The use of flaming pigs became a staple of siege warfare, with variations of the tactic being employed by the Romans and other ancient civilizations. Picture this: Roman battlefields in 272 BC, where generals, perhaps with a touch of desperation or a spark of genius, unleashed wild boars to thwart the Tarentines' elephant brigade. Even the Grand Alexander the Great, it's said, picked up this tip from King Porus in India, turning squealing swine into a secret weapon against cumbersome trunked beasts. Fast forward a few centuries, and the Romans had mastered the art of pork warfare. Pliny the Elder, with a note of amazement, claimed that elephants are scared by the smallest squeal of the hog. By the time the scene shifts to the 6th century AD in Edessa, defenders were literally hanging squealing pigs from city walls to fend off siege elephants. Fast forward all the way to the 16th century, and folks like the English politician Reginald Scott were still marveling at the elephant's comical fear of a pig's squeal. Thus, from ancient skirmishes to medieval manuscripts, the battle pig remains a hilariously effective footnote in military history. They demonstrated the power of unconventional thinking and the importance of adapting to the unique challenges posed by the enemy. But the strangest weapons of the ancient world are not limited to the realm of flesh and blood from innocent creatures. Enter the patu, a fearsome and deadly weapon born in the hands of the Maori, the indigenous Polynesian people who colonized New Zealand around 1000 BC. This simple yet effective weapon was crafted from the hardest materials available, such as stone, whalebone, or hardwood, sometimes including greenstone, with a real name of nephrite, which was highly prized for its durability and the skill required to shape it. The patu was designed for close-quarters combat, where its heavy weight and keen edges could crush skulls and break bones with ease. The standard patu measures approximately 37 centimeters in length and 11.5 centimeters in width at the blade, weighing about 480 grams. These dimensions could be adjusted to suit the warrior, normally forming a club shape. Depending on the material, it could, however, be made into a sharp-edged cleaver. Can you envision yourself a member of such a warrior culture? Could you control your fear? That Maori engaged almost exclusively in hand-to-hand combat. From a young age, you would begin your training, strengthening specific parts of the body like the wrists using tools like poi, traditional balls on long strings. Games such as tirakau, played with sticks, thrown in rhythm to traditional Maori songs, would also be a part of your rigorous training regimen. You would be taught that the patu was not just a weapon, but a symbol of power and status, often passed down from father to son as a treasured family heirloom. They believed that wielding a patu in battle would bring them strength and courage, channeling the spirit of their ancestors. In battle, Maori warriors wielded the patu with deadly skill. They would charge towards their enemies, letting out fierce war cries and swinging their patu in wide arcs. The shape and design of the patu, combined with the strength of the warrior, could easily shatter an enemy's defenses. The sharp edges could slice through flesh and bone, leaving a trail of devastation in its wake. One of the most notable conflicts in which the patu played a critical role was during the Ngati Marungati Tuharetoa War in the early 19th century. The conflict, part of the broader musket wars, saw Ngati Tuharetoa, under the leadership of Mananui Te Hauhou Tukino II, defending their homeland without the use of muskets, relying instead on traditional weapons like the patu. Despite the technological disadvantage, the prowess and tactical genius of Ngati Tuharetoa warriors allowed them to effectively counter the threats posed by invading forces armed with muskets. The patu, along with other traditional Maori weapons, demonstrated its effectiveness even in the face of changing warfare dynamics. As muskets and other firearms became more widespread in the 19th century, the patu gradually fell out of use as a weapon of war. However, it remains an important symbol of Maori identity and pride to this day, and is still used in traditional ceremonies and performances. Now for something truly odd. In the treacherous world of Renaissance Italy, the lantern shield emerged as a peculiar weapon designed for the dark underbelly of urban combat. This small buckler, adorned with a built-in lantern, was wielded by cunning duelists during the 15th and 16th centuries. The lantern shield's primary purpose was to blind and disorient opponents, giving the wielder a decisive advantage in the dimly lit streets and alleyways where secretive duels often took place. But the lantern shield was more than just a simple light source. Some designs incorporated deadly features like gauntlets, spikes, and even hidden sword blades. The Kunsthistorisches Museum in Vienna houses a remarkable example from the 1540s, showcasing the ingenuity and craftsmanship behind these unorthodox weapons. Interestingly, the lantern shield's combat practicality remains a topic of debate among historians. While fencing manuals of the era did include tactics for using lanterns in duels, such as parrying blows and blinding adversaries, it's believed that the lantern shield was more commonly employed for patrolling city streets at night rather than in actual combat. From the ingenious to the downright bizarre, military history is filled with surprising innovations that continue to captivate us to this day. And so ends this Chronicle of the Raven.